Welcome to this week's episode of How Men Grieve. This is your host, Kay Rogers, and I'm joined by my special guest, Mike Nelson. Say hi, Mike. They can see you nod your head.
Hello.
So Mike's joined us this week, and he's going to talk us through his grief and his grieving and how things felt when he went through his divorce. Mike's been divorced, how many times, Mike? 3, I think?
Four.
4. So he's going to kind of talk us through the feelings of loss and his emotional state as he's gone through those. So Mike, if you just want to give us just a little bit of history, you don't have to get too specific, and excluding names is fine. If you just go and kind of give us a quick brief history of your age at the time and maybe just kind of walk us through that.
Oh, okay. Well, my first one, I would have been 19. I think what it boiled down to is I was too young at the time. Ended up having a son with her. The second one, I don't know where my emotional state was with her, to be honest with you. I don't think I'd ever really gotten myself straight at that point. The third one, she started out really good. I don't know, I was 30-ish, I think, 31. And it started out good, and then things went south. I guess we can go into that later. And then the last one was just, to be honest with you, I think it was a mistake from day one. So.
Yeah, and you see a lot of people do that. I know we make fun of you. We tell you, Mike marries for sport, but I think, when you were talking about your first one and at 19 years old you were married, right? I mean, that's young.
Yeah.
It's not uncommon for people that young to fall in love. The next thing you know, the love goes away fairly quick, and the marriage doesn't, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
How long were you married the first time?
3 years.
3 years, and you guys had your son, right?
Yep.
And when did you think things started going south in that particular marriage?
I was young and stupid. I really didn't see it until she left.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's kind of surprised
That one kind of blindsided me. I should have seen it coming. As I get older, I would have, but I didn't.
Right. So were you just out partying a lot and doing your thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're right.
I wasn't doing what I was supposed to do. That's what it boils down to.
Were you guys able to stay on decent terms later on, maybe once the first emotional raws wore off?
Yeah.
When she left, what did you think?
I didn't. I kind of climbed into a bottle and stayed there.
Yeah, how long?
3-4 years.
Yeah. So you self-medicated with alcohol?
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been guilty of that a time or two myself.
Not the recommended way to do it, but
No, not at all. But I mean, we've all done it.
Yeah.
I mean, I've done it. You've done it. I'm sure, any guy out there at some point or another has probably tried to drown the sorrows in a beer bottle or a whiskey bottle, and that really helps. You get a hell of a nice hangover.
Yeah.
So once you started coming out of that, how long did it take you to get back up to the point where you wanted to start dating seriously again?
Oh, God, 5 years, I think.
And then in that 5, or after that started happening, how long did it take for you to meet somebody, your second wife?
Well, let's see. About 2 years.
2 years?
About 2 years, yeah.
Is that my phone? Yes. I was like, where's that noise coming from? I didn't realize I had my phone in my pocket.
Oh.
I will silence my phone. Sorry about that. Anyway, so, excuse me, when you met your second wife, how long did you guys date before you guys got married?
Maybe a year.
Yeah. Things go pretty well?
Yeah. Yeah, things were good.
And then how long were you married?
7 years, I believe.
And at that point, did you feel like you had grown up more and could be a better, husband or whatever?
Yeah.
At that point. And so 7 years, and now you guys don't have any children together, right?
No.
And so when did you see things start kind of going downhill in that marriage?
There were some medical issues come up. Changes happened with her, and it just kind of went our own ways,
So it was more of you guys kind of grew apart based on circumstance?
Yeah.
Was it ugly?
I've never talked to her since the last day I left the house.
Really?
Yeah.
Was it getting ugly before you left?
Oh, a little bit.
A little bit? A lot of fighting?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you had that one, when that one ended and you were leaving, Do you remember your state of mind or your state of emotion at that point?
Oh, there was a couple of stepkids that I was kind of attached to. So yeah, there was some grief there with that.
And so, how did you feel?
Almost like I lost part of my family. It was I don't know how to explain the feeling, but it was like losing part of your family, you know.
Right. Yeah. Well, you can essentially you kind of do.
Yeah.
You know. Pull that mic up just a little bit closer to you, Mike. Mike and Mike. I'm in town all week.
Yeah.
So, in that case, did you feel like you got as low of a feeling as you did from when you were first in
No.
your first one? No. So you never experienced that kind of low?
No, that first one was definitely the worst of the worst.
Really, that was the hardest one.
It put me in a mental place that was bad.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so when you say bad, did you?
Well, the reality is when that one happened is I had my son, and I do love my son, and he was all of a sudden went from living with me to being 100 and some miles away.
Wow.
You know, I mean.
And so that loss was just
Yeah.
huge. And you probably felt a lot more empty, in a way when that happened, huh?
Yes.
So I can see where, having that same feeling with your second one and being close to your stepkids, how that would feel the same way
Yeah.
too, because now you just, had those two kids kind of taken away in a sense, even though they weren't yours, but you can still love them, right? You were with them.
I was there for some of the younger years.
Well, yeah, in the formative years.
The one through the teenage years, when the cops called at 2 a.m, I was the one who went and got them,
Well, thank God I haven't had that happen yet, but I'm almost done. My youngest is 17, so here soon. I don't have to worry about when I pick her up. She'll be 18. Have you ever heard from any of the kids? Those two? No, never heard from them. And was that when you guys lived in Iowa?
No, that was living in Gardner.
Gardner, okay. Because I don't remember. I don't think you were married to her when Pam and I got married.
Yes.
You were married to her?
Yes. Yes, she was with me at your wedding. I was married to her till 05.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't remember, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I may have met her maybe once or twice then, because it wasn't very often.
Yeah.
I don't think you were coming around as much back then, because you lived up there.
There, yeah.
It's 2 hours north, right?
Yeah.
And so then, how long in between your second and third wife? How long were you? I mean, I know you felt down, right? But you said you didn't get as low as you did in your
Didn't
first.
get as low, and I mean, it was maybe. I think I started drinking a lot again. And I don't know if it was out of sadness or just out of boredom or whatever. And then ended up meeting a woman in Indiana. And ended up marrying her. And it actually started out all right. And I was happy, I was content. And as time went on, it turns out she was more worried about my money than me. Kind of what happened was I got sick once, ended up in the hospital. I think you know about that whole thing. And,
Right.
What got her was my mom was there, and her only thing she told my mom was she was worried about me getting out of there and going back to work.
Wow. Not if, are you okay?
Yeah,
I love him. I'm going to miss
that was
him.
a concern. So that's where that one faltered.
And that one was more your choice, if I remember right.
Yes.
You kind of took the lead. You're like, okay, well, I see what's going on here, so I'm out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of remember that. Cause
And there wasn't a whole lot of, I don't think there was a whole lot of grief or a whole lot of loss with that,
Do you think, was she surprised?
No, I don't think so.
No. Because I remember, I don't remember that one really seemed to bother you at all. I mean,
No.
You were just like, you know what? That's all she cared about. It wasn't about me and her, so I'm done. I'm out. That's not a relationship anyway, right?
Yeah, it was what she wanted all the time, and that's just, you met me.
Yeah, I mean.
I do what I do. And
Yeah. I mean, you got to have some relationship there. You got to have that feeling of want, right?
Yes.
And need. And that's the thing is, a lot of guys don't ever want to admit that, but we all have that feeling that we want to be wanted and we want to be in a relationship where it feels like somebody cares about us.
Yes.
Yes, we're macho and we're tough and all that stuff, but I don't care if any guy out there says that. I don't need that. Yes, you do.
Yeah, you do.
It's a human instinct. We all need it. Men just don't talk about it and share it, right?
Yes.
And how often do you go to your wife and say, you know what, you're not filling my emotional needs? You don't do that.
No.
Your wife would look at you like you're crazy if you said that to her, right? I mean,
Yes.
But it's true. We talk about that, I think, in different ways. We act out.
Yeah.
We get grumpy and argumentative.
Instead of emotional and crying and that, yeah, we go the other direction.
Right.
Yes.
Because we're hard-headed.
Yeah.
And we're afraid of emotions.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. But
And that's part of the alcohol thing too. Let's drown it,
Well, that's, yeah. But what we never learn from that is the fact that when we drown it, it gets harder.
Yeah.
I mean, it's more pronounced.
Once you're drunk, it's even worse when you're drunk, and then you wake up with a hangover, and it's even...
Yeah. Well, when you're drunk and you're a crying, slobbering idiot, and then everybody's looking at you like you're crazy, and then the next day you're like, oh, God, I can't believe I did that.
Yeah. So now I'm hungover worried about that. Yeah.
Yeah. I've embarrassed myself in front of my friends because, I openly had emotions because I was drunk enough that I couldn't control them, and then, here you go. Oh, yeah, I've been there many, many times. I think one of the grandkids is awake, stomping around up there. I heard somebody. So, getting through that, so that one was just kind of like, you know what, I'm out. And then you stayed there for a little while, but then you moved back pretty soon after that, didn't you? Because you had a pretty decent job, if I remember right, over there.
Yeah, but the upside to that job was I was running local out of there, running Chicago. They had regional jobs. I took a regional truck, moved back to Peoria, and then I just was on the road 3-4 days a week.
You didn't
Same
do that.
company.
Yeah, you didn't do that for very long, though, if I remember right, did you?
No, maybe 4 or 5 months.
Yeah, because then you started hauling local again, didn't you?
Yeah.
And then that's when you got on with the state sometime shortly after that, wasn't it? There's my timeline a little.
There's about a year and a half in between there.
Yeah. I knew, because I remember you driving local for a while. I think you hauled rock or something, didn't you?
Well, I drove local. I was out of work for a little bit, played brick laborer for about a year, then I drove local for a while. And then this came through. Don't brick labor.
No, that's hard work, dude.
There's not enough money in that.
No, well, we're not 20.
Yeah.
Our bodies don't like us when we do that stuff. It's one thing to try to exercise and stay healthy. It's another thing to abuse yourself.
Yeah.
Who does that on purpose? So when you moved back, did you date anybody in Indiana after you and her divorced?
No.
So then you stayed single, you moved back, and then how long were you back before you started dating again?
Oh gosh, not very long. That was where this is where the mistake was made. This is where I went back to the first wife.
Yep. Yeah, I remember that.
Got back with her, ended up living with her shortly after that, and unfortunately that was a mistake.
Yeah, but you guys were together for quite a while.
Yeah, but after that whole thing collapsed, and I haven't talked to her since. That was the end of our friendship after, a lot of years.
Yeah, well, yeah,
So.
and that was kind of that was a messed up deal the way she treated you on that one again. I mean, you were good to her, I think, and then, when it ended, it could have been an easy, amicable split,
Yeah.
but she made it nasty and not fun.
Yeah, it is what it is.
But you never remarried her, you guys just dated.
Yeah.
Because I remember when you and I went and got your stuff and I helped you move, because we had didn't we have a box truck or something? Or was it just my pickup or something? Or
I don't remember.
I don't know. You and I did. We got that moved you over there to Creek Core, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. That little bitty apartment with the basement that was like 5 foot tall or something.
Yeah.
You had to watch your head.
Yeah, with the garage door, my pickup wouldn't fit through. Yes.
Yeah. Those are interesting little apartments there. Something funny. Did you feel when you and her were dating? It was a long-term relationship, right? Mm-hmm. And when you guys went back, I remember you guys were really happy. You're kind of elated.
Yeah.
Do you think you were just trying to relive some of the past before?
I think so.
Yeah, trying to make up for it or something?
Yeah, make up for it and be a family again. I'm not sure where that was going.
Did you have any doubts in your mind when you and her started dating again in the beginning?
No, that's the thing. Not in the beginning. But then as time went on, things start to come back on the fights you had, the problems you had. And,
How long did that take?
I don't know, maybe a year.
Oh, is that soon?
Yeah.
And then when that started happening, did you start getting the feeling that maybe this isn't the right thing?
Yep.
But then you stuck it out for how much longer after that?
It was, 2 years.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so in between that, did you feel the same kind of low you had on the first one? When you and her first divorced?
No. No, the only thing that went through my mind was I can't believe I did it again.
Yeah. Well, we're in love, right?
Yeah.
I mean, us men are known to be stupid when we're in love. Theoretically, yeah. Well, that makes you question: Are we Well, love is supposed to be a feeling. I think, do we really understand what that's supposed to feel like?
I'm not sure anymore.
I'm not either. I don't know. I'm not saying I'm not in love. I love my wife. I'm just saying that, and I know that. I've been with her a long time. We've been through, hell and back.
Yeah.
And we always seem to come back together, and we work hard for each other. But you got to question at some point or another, what is love really defined? I think we're taught that love is like this dreamy state of rainbows and unicorns and white picket fence and pink house and all that crap, and then reality sets in that life isn't like that.
No, it's not.
Love is not just an emotion. It's sometimes it's a job.
It's a job. It's a whole life. I mean, it's literally a whole life. It involves every aspect of your life.
Yeah, I mean, you got to work, you got to pay bills, you got to raise your kids, you got to.
And you still got to do quality time with them in the middle of all this. And,
yep. Yes. And then you want to try to go out and have some fun together, and
then life always throws something in the way. I
mean,
it's just the way it works.
And something bad happens, and you got to try to support each other, and sometimes that's almost impossible. Sometimes it's hard, right? So yeah, it's kind of a weird thing. Love doesn't. I think it's funny that I still laugh at grandkids are having a good time up there. Apparently, they're thumping around. It makes you wonder sometimes: are we setting the expectation of what love is, and what a relationship's supposed to be like? Are we setting that expectation up unrealistically?
Yes, I think so. I really do. Or we're not putting all aspects of it into it.
No, there's that too. We're not looking at it holistically.
Yes.
Because I think, when I was young, the generation before us, I think, was probably one of the first generations that it had to have a 2-income family.
Yeah.
And then before them, the mom and the wife stayed home, raised the kids, the dad went to work, provided for the family, and mom did all the household stuff, cooked all the dinners, did all the laundry and all that stuff. And so coming up through that, tail end of that, into our mom and dad, there was still some of that.
When I was young, it was 1-on-1, but as I got older, they were both working.
Yeah. I mean, there was still some of that expectation, right?
Yeah.
That the woman did all the household stuff and raised the kids and did all that, and the man went to work. And then when we get to the point where we're going to start dating or start, getting in relationships, we still have some of that stuck in the back of our head.
Yeah.
But the reality of it is that isn't the way it goes.
Not anymore.
No. Most people can't afford to have one income. Yeah. And most people, when you have a family, it takes both.
Yeah.
You got to help do the laundry. You got to help cook the meals. You got to help clean up the house. You can't just expect the wife to go to work and then come home and do all that, what they call the wife stuff.
Yeah.
Right? Quote unquote wife stuff, because it's an us stuff.
Yes.
I mean, I do laundry. I cook. Kitchen is my domain.
Yes, it is.
As I've told Pam, get out. I don't mind that, but we help. We both tackle the household responsibilities together. And I think if we went into relationships when we were younger, knowing that, we may have been more successful.
Yes. That may be true.
But I think
I don't know. I've never really kind of put that spin on it.
But maybe not. But it's okay. I mean, life, it's got us here for a reason. And I think all of us can say through our trials and tribulations, we're probably in a much better place than we were 10 years ago.
Oh, absolutely.
Or 20 years ago. I don't know.
Absolutely.
I know my first wife would tell you she's in a much better relationship and a much happier relationship with her husband.
Yeah.
And then I can say the same thing about Pam. So when you guys broke up, you moved out, and you were single for a while.
Yeah.
I don't remember how long it was before you met then
a couple of years.
Yeah, your last wife then. So when you met her and you guys started getting serious, did you have any warning signs at that point, or were you just kind of...
I think they were there, I just didn't want to see them. I think there were some differences there.
Because in the beginning, I remember it was just solid.
Yeah.
It seemed like, even though I did tell Pam one time, she did awful lot of criticizing of you.
Yeah.
Which, to me, that's kind of a red flag in a way.
Yeah.
Now, you're very tolerant of that, I will say that, because I would have lost my mind a couple of times.
Well, I'm a lot less tolerant now, I promise you.
Well, you have to be. You learn that lesson. And so when you guys got married, whose idea was it to get married? Was it a mutual
I
decision?
think it's a mutual thing.
Well, just kind of talked about it, said, hey, we're going to get married.
Yeah.
And then how long, I mean, was it 2 years?
3.
3 years. So it was good in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
When did you start seeing problems that, I mean, in the back of your head, they were kind of nagging saying, I don't think this is going to last?
Oh, God, it wasn't very long, to be honest with you. And I don't want to put all the blame on her for this, by any means.
Right.
You know, it, probably 6 months or so into it.
And what kind of things were you seeing that was really kind of making you say, man, I don't know if this is going to be, I don't think this was a good idea.
Well, part of it was her son was still living with her, and we had completely different aspects on parenting, and maybe just partying once in a while and that. I've still got that in me, not like I used to. But, you know, she just wasn't, I don't know, seemed probably more grounded, maybe is the word I'm looking for. And maybe I wasn't grounded enough, which was the criticizing part of it.
Yeah, it could be.
But I never will be. Right now, this is as good as it gets.
You know, because how old are you, Mike? You're 50...
51.
51, yeah. I mean, at this point,
This is not a fixer-upper at this point. This is it.
yeah, you can put paint on me, but I ain't changing
Yeah.
much, right? Yeah, I'm the same way. I'm 48. I mean, when Pam's 50. I mean, I'm willing to compromise to a point, but I'm not changing my. Well, first of all, you can't change somebody.
No.
And thinking that you can or asking them to is a completely unrealistic expectation.
Yes.
What you have to do is you have to figure out, can I live with these flaws?
Yes.
And some of them, yes, they can be reeled in a little bit. Like if you're out partying every night, it's like, all right, listen, man, come on. You know, cut it back to maybe once a week or once every couple of weeks. We want to have a good time. You don't have to be gone all the time, right? But the expectation to change somebody is ridiculous.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean,
and it's not fair.
no. And I mean, she's the one that initiated. She left on the last one, you know.
When that happened, what was your thoughts?
Well, actually, with her, it was kind of almost a relief, I guess. But again, there was other kids and grandkids involved at that point that I've not been able to see since. And that part of it I miss.
Yeah.
You know?
Did you experience a low from that one?
I don't think I ever got a real low on it. I think I've become numb to the point I don't do that now.
Did you ever have a thought in your mind like, God, again?
Never again. That's what goes through my mind.
Never again, right?
Never again, yes.
Because that's got to be hard thinking back. It's like, God, you know.
I've taken this great, what do they call it? God, I had somebody explain it to me once. It's a great institution if it doesn't put you in one, and I've managed to make a disaster out of it. Truly, by the time you're married 2 or 3 times, you really have screwed something up there. It can't be just the other people.
Well, some people, and I've told Pam that some people just aren't meant to be married.
And I am one of them. I just,
you know, some people just they're just something about it.
I can date. I do good on that, and
Right.
something with the marriage, it changes.
Yeah, maybe
I know what it is.
you change, they change, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Just some people just aren't meant to be. You know, my dad was one of those guys. He was married 4 times. He had 10 kids. I asked one time, I said, do you ever think about just dating? You know, because he didn't have a lot of break in between. He went from one right to another. He had one lined up before he left.
See, a couple of them were close, but generally there's a little bit of time in there, you know.
And he had no time. He was leaving one for the other, and he did that 3 different times. Go ahead, take a drink of water. I was getting dry there. So yeah, he was not, but in the last time, his last divorce happened, I think he was 65 years old.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, he was not a young man.
Yeah.
And so then he did stay single after that. He's like, you know what? I've spent enough money on divorces, and that last one I think cost him quite a bit. He financially hurt him, and he said, you know, I'm done. I'll date. I ain't marrying again.
Yeah.
He said, I've done it 4 times. I didn't do it well any of them, so I'm done.
And that's where I'm at. I'm in the exact same spot. It's like that's not even a feasible thing for me.
Right.
You know.
But you know, I mean, who says you have to be married to be happy?
You don't.
You
don't.
I mean, I think a lot of people think, well, are you ever going to marry her? And well, if you're happy, does that really matter?
Not a bit.
Because there's people out there that have relationships that are 15, 20 years long and they've
Yeah.
been married and they're solid and they're happy and they don't look at it any different than anybody else.
Yeah.
Just a different last name.
Yeah. So that's something that will never happen again.
So-
Marriage is done.
So you think you learned your biggest lesson from the first one then? You think that was the one that really taught you the most about it?
Probably, yes.
When did you start actually realizing, like I know you said you went really low and really self-medicated through alcohol and all that kind of stuff. When did you recognize that you couldn't keep doing that?
I honestly don't remember.
Well, you're probably still drunk.
Yeah, I don't remember really. I think part of it was work. I was missing a lot of work. I was doing a lot of stuff. Just somewhere I woke up and said, this just isn't working.
Yeah, I just gotta make a
Just
change.
completely quit drinking for a while. Yeah.
And then, so once you started doing that, it's almost like you pull your head out of the sand a little bit, right?
Yeah.
It's like, you know, you're
Once your head clears up a little bit, then you can start to process things the way they really happen.
right, and you kind of see again, right?
Yeah.
You got some, you're like, well, man, you know, I can't keep doing this. This is bad.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, you have to do the dishes, you have to do the laundry, and you can't be drunk all the time. You can't spend your whole paycheck on booze. You do have to pay rent.
yeah,
You
well,
know.
there is that whole thing.
Yeah, there's a whole bill thing too, so. I mean, it got to that point where I about had a pickup repoed, so.
Oh, that's pretty bad. Then.
Yeah, it was getting there, so.
So when you came out of it and you started getting yourself back on track, do you ever feel like, I mean, your emotional health, you know, obviously we got to take care of our responsibilities, but did you make some changes for you on your emotional health besides just quit drinking?
Probably not at that time.
When do you think you started recognizing you needed to change some things for your emotional health?
Probably in the last, I'll bet about the last 3 or 4 years, really.
Yeah.
Is when I've really thought more about the emotional part of it.
What made you start thinking about it?
Every once in a while you have somebody say something to you, or smack you in the back of the head and say, listen. And I hate to say it, you go see counseling, you go see what you need to do, and sometimes things come out that you didn't realize were an issue. And
Yeah,
you bottle it up. I mean, let's face it. That's what I did for a lot of years.
and sometimes that cap comes off
And that cap come off and it's not good.
no, and I still do counseling.
Yeah.
Pam and I do counseling, and then I was doing individual counseling. I need to get my appointment made back again, but I find it very helpful.
No, I still go every 3 months. I don't go all the time, but I go every 3 months.
Yeah, and I think we were getting to the point. I think she wanted to see me about once a month, and I was okay with that. But I think it's extremely important to have that that avenue to vent to somebody that's unbiased.
Yeah, it's a non-judgmental.
Yeah,
What's said there stays there, and that's
they,
the end of it.
yeah, they don't live with you. They don't know all your flaws and your
Yeah.
good points, and they're just going to give you straight information. This is your,
Yeah.
you can't do that. Here's what you need to do different.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not quite that easy, but they give you some exercises to do to kind of work on your emotional health.
Yeah.
And sometimes, in some cases, I know I've had people recommend this to me. They'll put you on some antidepressants or something that kind of levels your mood out.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you got to get your mood leveled first.
Yeah, if your mind's not right, you're not going to be right.
No, because you act out.
Yeah.
You act the fool, right? I mean,
Yes.
that's what we do.
Yeah.
I mean, we act the fool. So when you started that journey on your emotional health, and you recognized that somebody smacked you in the back of the head and said, "Hey, dude, you need to start talking to somebody. You got some things going on," and you started. Did you start? Was it kind of a blow to your ego to recognize that you're
Yes.
probably right?
Oh, yes. Yes.
And so when
And I was a little resistant at first.
what?
Yeah, imagine that.
I don't see that, Mike.
Imagine that.
What made you-
So I'm not sure even when I first went into it, with the last time we even tried a little, marriage counseling, I don't think I went into it with the right attitude.
When you got kind of kicked in the gut and you were resistant, right?
Yeah.
What made you go ahead and go anyway?
I think more for her than for me. She wanted me to. It wasn't so much as I thought I needed to, maybe. Which isn't the right reason.
What made you keep going though?
Well, with that, we only went a few times and then that was done. Then I started seeing one on my own, and that's where things changed.
So that's kind of what I'm asking
Yeah.
is, so when you and her were going, and, like you said, it just, your mind was, you weren't in it, right?
Yeah.
You weren't invested in it.
Yeah.
You guys done, and I'm assuming the divorce happened then, right? And then you went and started seeing a counselor?
It was about a year after that.
Okay, so you started seeing a counselor on your own before your
Before we were, yeah.
And so what prompted you to go for yourself? Like when you knew the marriage counseling wasn't going well, you guys were done with that, but you wanted to go do kind of...
Because there's just certain aspects with this one I started feeling better.
So
mentally I was in a better place.
So you found you seen a quick benefit to when you started doing the individual counseling.
Yeah.
And so did somebody have to push you to kind of go to see the individual counselor?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So you got pushed, you hadn't seen him.
Yeah.
And you're like, hey, wow, this is
all right. Yeah.
This is okay.
Yeah.
And so once you had that kind of, I don't know what you want to call it, once you recognize the value for yourself, you're like, yeah, I'm just going to keep doing this. I like this.
And that's kind of what it was.
Yeah, and that's kind of how I felt with mine too. It's like, I needed some help. I knew I needed some help, right? I had some issues, clearly.
Yeah.
And then when I started seeing the counselor, I really liked this counselor. And I think a lot of it, I think it's...
The rapport maybe with them?
Yeah, because I've done other counselors and I just didn't like them.
Yeah.
And not dislike them personally. I just didn't like the connection that we had.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like we made that talking connection. Where the one I have now, I feel like I do have that connection. Yeah. And she has a really great way of pulling things out of you without you realizing she's doing that. And then she can start getting you to talk about some of these hard conversations. Yeah. I mean, you got to talk about it. I mean, that's the bottom line.
Yeah.
If you're not talking about it, like you said, you're
bottling it up. Yeah. And that's got to come to a head at some point.
Oh, yeah.
And it's never good.
No, and I think we've all seen our lows more than once throughout our lifetime. At our age, somebody think we'd be a little bit smarter. I don't know about all that.
Educated, maybe? I don't
know. I don't even know.
Smarter's the word. Well, experienced.
Well, we're definitely more experienced. And do we learn our lessons? I think now we
yeah.
Now we do. Back then, no way.
I'm not sure through the 20s, 30s, early 40s. I'm not sure.
It's almost funny in a way. We finally get to a point in our lives where we say, we got to take better care of ourselves.
Yes.
Because we just spent the first 30 or the first 50 years not.
Yeah.
And I'd like to make my last 30 or so a little bit better. Yeah, I was having a conversation the other day that I'm like, listen, man, we're on the back end of our lives now. We're past the halfway point.
I'm not going to make 100.
Oh no,
I've treated this body not like a temple, so
no,
it's not going to go to 100.
I don't expect any of us to make it to 100. And if you do, great, but more than likely not. And even with today's modern medicine, that's unrealistic.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people do that, and have a quality of life or decent health.
That's part of it, yes.
So speaking of quality of life, with your counseling and what you're doing for yourself, do you feel an improvement in your quality of life?
Yep. Work also offered a class where at work. It was a 2-day thing, and it actually did wonders for me too.
Talk about that.
It was I can't go into a whole lot of detail about it, but it's
just maybe like a high level.
Basically like it's a fatigue to fulfillment, and it's just on how to deal with things and how the jobs change you, and don't let your job self-identify you. Your job is there. Your job is there to support the rest of your life. Your job is not there to identify you.
Oh, that's a good point.
It's the old saying, we've all heard it. If you died tomorrow, your job's going to be posted before you're on the ground.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you're going to be replaced quickly.
They're like, take care of yourself.
That's a great point.
It is.
It's actually a point we should carry out even to the point outside of work, right?
Yes.
We have to take care of ourselves.
Yes.
And that's, when I had this concept of this podcast, that was the whole point, right? Is, are we taking care of our emotional health?
Yeah. And the answer to that is no. Are we the way we should be? Probably not. I'm doing much better now than I was. And they promote that now, but yeah, for a long time, you just bottle it up and ignore it.
And I think a lot of time people confuse mental health and emotional health.
Yeah, it's completely different.
Yeah, I think
Yes.
I know one impacts the other clearly.
Yes.
You know, if our emotional health is poor, our mental health
Yes.
usually ends up pretty poor too.
Yes.
But I think our emotional health really, that's something that we don't talk about enough of as men as a whole, or even as a society. I think emotional health, now there's a lot more out there now than there
Yes.
was. You know, 20 years ago, you and I would have never sat down and had these kind of conversations.
No.
We'd have been like, what is wrong with
Let's go
you?
get a beer.
Yeah, let's get a beer. Quit your crying, you baby.
Yeah.
That's usually how you gain
Well,
it.
and like I said, that's kind of part of what workers are going. Oh, you know, it was always, you understand the environment. It was always suck it up.
Yeah.
So shit, deal with it. You know.
Yeah.
And now they're into the figuring out that really isn't working. You know.
I think there's a lot more recognition in that field, and we'll just say it's corrections.
Yes.
That they need to spend time and money on emotional and mental health to work in that environment day in
Which
day out.
is what they're doing now.
You have to,
They really are.
because the suicide rate and all that kind of stuff
Yeah.
is exceptionally high.
Yes.
You know, I think I can look it up, but
We've had, and I could be wrong on this number, I think 5 in the last year. It's 4 in the last year. I can't remember the exact number, I didn't know it, but I mean, you know, when you're talking about, you know, give or take, you know, 12,000 employees, that's a lot.
yeah, I can't really find a specific number. I was going to look on to ask the great googly moogly, but I didn't see.
Yeah, it's,
And I think a lot of it too, you know, in that environment, you are not. Illinois prisons have a suicide rate of 16 per 100,000 inmates, which is still, I mean, and that's one of the things that people. I can't find the number, but
yeah,
essentially, there was a lot of, when I started there in 1991, now I only worked in corrections for 7 years, and then I moved on. I knew, I was like, there's no way I'm going to make this a career for me.
yeah.
And I worked in a maximum security prison, so, and back then, and you probably
Oh,
remember,
yeah.
it was a lot different.
It was different.
It was a different environment. You know, it was the Thunderdome.
Yeah.
I mean, it was really bad. And there's a lot of guys that worked in that environment for a lot of years, and they did have that job define them.
Yes.
Emotionally and mentally. And the divorce rate in corrections is high, the suicide rate in corrections is high. You know, I'm sure if you look at other statistics, you'll see that, you know, domestic violence is probably
Yes.
higher than the national average, and for people that work in corrections,
Yes.
especially in those environments. And so I think there's got to be money spent. There's got to be.
And that's what they're doing now. They are promoting that, which is good.
Did you feel like the people were taking it seriously?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Because I know now we're probably getting to that point where it's a younger generation coming in.
Well, this is focused more to people, and I was told I was wrong about this, but anyways, I think it's focused more to people that have been there a while and are already starting to change in their mind or whatever, and it's focused more for them. You know.
Right. Maybe they're starting to see some.
They're starting to see patterns in it, and
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, that makes sense. So there's a lot more tools out there, and you're taking advantage of them.
Yes.
Do you think, and I'm assuming you're going to continue to, right? Because I think I can tell you, I mean, we've talked before that you really like where you're at in life now.
Yeah.
You know, we're boating buddies. We all like getting on the river and boating and having a
Well,
good
I
time.
gotta have you there to tow me in every time I break down.
Yeah. Well, you may be telling me next year, you know, in a couple of years, you never know. I may be having to have my trim fixed and pull the sand out of my thermostat.
Yeah.
I would have never guessed that either.
No.
If it was peeing water, you think it's doing good, but that's not what that means at all.
Yeah. On a side note, if an outboard motor is peeing water out the side, it doesn't mean it's circulating through the motor. I learned that the hard way.
Yeah, learned that the hard way. But at least it was shutting you down on the motor
Yeah.
protection, you know, because those motors ain't cheap.
No, that's the upside to that is they
Yeah.
shut down. That's it.
Yeah,
They derate and then they shut down.
Yep, they let you know, hey, we're not.
Yeah.
Don't you wish our emotional health would do the same thing?
Yeah.
Well, it kind of does.
Yeah, it does. We just don't sometimes see it.
We we do dumb things and we realize, why did we do that? Well, I was upset. I was hurt.
Yeah.
And so I acted out. And it's almost funny because we're like little kids sometimes, right?
Say things you don't want to say or try to get the last word in, whatever the case is.
Yep. Go out and binge drink and be dumb.
Sometimes they do that out of fun, though.
Well, but it's better when it's your choice to go do it because you're going to have a good time.
Yeah, then you just wake up the next day and go, God, I'm getting too old for this.
Yeah, I know better. What was I thinking? So, well, we've been talking for 40 minutes.
Oh, well.
Yeah, I know it flies by when you do this.
Yeah.
And it was funny, I was telling it was Thanksgiving yesterday, but I was talking.
I'm a little calmer now than I was when I first sat down. And I mean,
a lot of people get nervous, but I'm like, listen, it's just conversation.
I'm not a public speaker.
No.
For the most part.
Well, that's what I told Pam when she interviewed. I said, listen, this is going out for people to listen to on their phones or whatever.
Yeah.
And I said, you're not in front of them talking. They don't even know who we are. Some people that listen do,
Yeah.
but for the most part, they don't. And so there's no rules to it or anything. It's just, it's a conversation about our men's emotional health. This is how we handle things. And grief comes in many different forms. It's not just grief from loss. There's grief from divorce. And I think we kind of touched on it. You were talking about you had that grieving over losing that relationship with your stepkids.
Yeah.
That's hard.
And even the last one with the grandkids. I mean, it's, there's things there.
Yeah, you're going to miss them. Yeah, absolutely. So do you got any words of wisdom before we end the podcast?
If you're not 100% sure, 100% into it, don't do it.
Yeah.
Do not get married. Make sure that's what you want and you're willing to make the commitment and you're willing to put in the time and the energy, the good, the bad,
Yeah.
You have to be 100% on board with that.
And there you have it, folks. If you're going to do it, be 100% or don't do it. So, guys, I'm going to end the podcast. Mike, thanks for being on here with us.
You're welcome. Glad you was here.
And guys, let's keep it real. Until next time, peace.